If you wait, you lose. Delay is the enemy of power. Napoleon believed in surprise through speed. In 1800, he crossed the Alps when snow still choked the passes. His enemies thought him trapped by weather until he appeared on the plains of Italy, ahead of their expectations. All great events hang by a single thread. The clever man neglects nothing, he warned his subordinates. In war and in life, he raced ahead, forcing others to respond on his terms. To seize the initiative is to set the rules. When you act fast, others hesitate, and hesitation is defeat. Unity beats democracy in war. In the chaos after the revolution, France was ruled by a divided government. 5 directors squabbled while the nation bled. Napoleon ended it in one stroke. A great people may give itself a government, but it is always a man who makes it work. He became first consul, then emperor, because he understood that a single will must command, especially in moments of crisis. He did not tolerate confusion at the top. A clear vision, pushed from the center, gave his armies strength beyond numbers. You do not win by asking everyone what they think. You win by deciding, then acting. People obey what they see. When Napoleon crowned himself emperor in Notre Dame, he did not let the Pope place the crown. He seized it and crowned himself. The message was visual, unmistakable. Power comes from me, not the church. His every step was theater, grand uniforms, sculpted busts, public bulletins. Imagination governs the world, where he wrote. He understood that symbols shape men more than facts. Appear powerful and you become it. Look the part and the part obeys. You don't need to lie. You just need to lead perception. Napoleon understood that crowds want direction more than truth. He issued public bulletins that exaggerated victories and downplayed losses. After his Egyptian campaign, militarily a failure, he returned to France as a hero. Why? Because he controlled the story. Public opinion is an invisible power, he said. It is the thermometer a monarch should constantly consult. He didn't chase popularity, he shaped it. And when he did, people followed. Your plan should be invisible until it's irreversible. Napoleon's favorite weapon wasn't the cannon, it was surprise. He said, "The secret of great battles consists in knowing how to deploy only at the last moment." At Ulm, he appeared to move slowly, then crushed Mack in a sudden encirclement. Plans were hidden. Action was instant. That's how you overwhelm thinking with movement. If people know your intentions, they can resist. But if they only see results, it's too late. If the front is blocked, find a side door. Rather than storming the enemy head-on, Napoleon always looked for the unseen path. In 1796, facing Austrian armies in Italy, he struck between them, separated their forces, and crushed them one by one. He wrote, "In war, the moral is to the physical as 3-to-1. Surprise breaks morale faster than brute strength. Don't just hit harder, hit smarter. Go where they feel safest and make it dangerous." Mountains, rivers, snow, these weren't obstacles. They were tools. Napoleon believed that terrain wasn't to be feared, but used. He crossed the Alps like Hannibal, not to repeat history, but to flip it. He moved armies where others thought it impossible. He once wrote that geography is an instrument of policy, not a limit. In battle, he used rivers to divide enemies and passes to ambush them. The lesson: most people stare at obstacles. You must look through them. Napoleon didn't waste hours. He compounded them. He said, time is everything. 5 minutes make the difference between victory and defeat. While others debated or hesitated, he was already on the move. He compressed months of action into weeks, sometimes days. His campaigns were short, sharp, and shocking. To him, time was like gold. Those who saved it had power to spend it later in decisive blows. Napoleon believed in talent, not titles. There are men behind plows who should be in the Conseil d'État, and ministers who ought to be behind a plow, he told his son. He broke the old aristocracy by promoting generals from the ranks. He said a man should rise according to his true merit. You don't need permission to lead. Prove yourself. Outwork the titled, outshine the born. Napoleon rewarded men who delivered, not men who waited. He once said, Every man who has done something great was spurred on by some opportunity. But the second part of that lesson was sharper. Those who stood still lost their place. Even his most loyal marshals, like Bernadotte, learned that when they hesitated or doubted, they were replaced or ignored. Napoleon didn't care where you came from, only what you did with your moment. Failure wasn't final for Napoleon, it was fuel. After his retreat from Russia, with thousands dead and morale shattered, he returned to Paris and immediately began rebuilding. He didn't deny the loss. He studied it. He turned pain into precision. He once said, "Nothing is more difficult, and therefore more precious, than to be able to decide." Most people run from mistakes. Great men mine them for wisdom. Napoleon's secret was not just bold attacks, but where he struck. At Austerlitz, he let the Allies take the high ground, then lured them into overextending. He hit them hard in the center, then crushed their flanks. He wrote, "In war, it is the power of the idea and the movement which decides victory. Don't let your enemies know what matters most to you. Strike where they feel strong until they realize they're weak." Napoleon believed in provoking mistakes, not just waiting for them. At Austerlitz, he appeared weak on purpose, luring the Allies to attack what looked like his vulnerable flank. But it was a trap. When they committed their full force, he struck the exposed center and crushed them. He once said, "Never interrupt your enemy when he is making a mistake. Let your enemies think they're winning. Their confidence becomes your camouflage." For Napoleon, perception was power. He was obsessed with image. He wrote his own bulletins, edited newspapers, and even dictated how history would remember him. "My real glory," he said, "is not the 40 battles I have won, but what will never be effaced, the code." He knew battles fade, but reputation endures. Control your narrative, or someone else will write it for you. Conquest without law is chaos. Napoleon conquered Europe, but he kept it by creating order. His civil code unified France and shaped Europe for a century. He believed laws must outlive the sword. A constitution should be short and obscure, he joked, but underneath was a serious point. Law must bind the people more tightly than fear. If you build a kingdom, build its rules, or the people will rebel. Napoleon used alliances, but never trusted them. He allied with Austria, married its princess, and still crushed its armies when they disobeyed him. "I have made kings," he said, "but I am not one myself." Alliances were useful, never sacred. He bent others to his purpose, but never let them think they held the reins. Power respects utility, not loyalty. Napoleon didn't care about ranks. He studied character. He said, "To understand the man, you must know what was happening in the world when he was 20. To him, a title meant nothing without talent. He promoted men like Lannes and Ney from humble roots because they proved themselves in action. Respect is earned, not inherited." Napoleon ruled with a knife in one hand and a gift in the other. He could terrify a minister or flatter a soldier, whatever the moment required. "Men are more easily governed through their vices than through their virtues," he observed. He understood that fear without reward breeds rebellion, and reward without fear breeds softness. Balance keeps power stable. Napoleon adapted faster than his enemies. While other generals clung to old tactics, he created new ones. A general should never fight the same battle twice, he implied through action. At Ulm, he used speed and encirclement. At Austerlitz, deception. At Jena, momentum. He believed that habits are fatal in war and in life. Your last victory can be your next blind spot. Crush the enemy's army, but not his hope. Napoleon knew that mercy could be a weapon. After defeating Austria, he often offered peace quickly. He once said, "It would be a joke if the conduct of the victor had to be justified to the vanquished." But by offering dignity in defeat, he avoided endless resistance. Let them retreat with honor, and you'll advance in peace. Napoleon didn't just conquer land, he conquered minds. He understood the power of symbols, slogans, and ideals. He called the French flag the tricolor of liberty. Even as emperor, he claimed to defend the revolution's values. He used ideas like equality, order, and law as shields and swords. He once said that religion itself was a political vaccine, something to unite people and tame chaos. An idea travels faster than any army. Napoleon could command hundreds of thousands, but still move like a single mind. His secret? He let generals adapt to terrain, but kept the grand goal tight in his grip. The art of war, he wrote, is a science covered with shadows. He delegated detail, but never direction. Every division moved with independence, yet toward one unbreakable aim: victory. Clarity at the top creates freedom below. Napoleon didn't just lead men, he led myths. He said, "The crowd seeks to be impressed." He revived the Roman eagle, crowned himself emperor, and named his son the King of Rome. Soldiers carried banners with his victories stitched in gold. The image of Napoleon was more than propaganda. It was power crystallized into a person. Symbols outlive commands. Napoleon had no respect for static thinkers. He mocked men who become attached to systems. For him, belief was useful only if it worked. He adapted his politics, his laws, even his friendships. A man who changes the world cannot be trapped by the rules of yesterday. Doctrine is death, adaptability is life. Napoleon trained like a soldier of the mind. He once said, "One must be able to suffer everything." He studied for hours, rode for miles, and went without sleep before battle. His body obeyed his will. His will served his purpose. This self-discipline became his armor. Even in freezing alpine campaigns, he didn't ask of others what he wouldn't do himself. Your body is the first army you must command. Napoleon understood the power of presence, but also the weight of command. He believed in inspiring men by being seen at key moments, yet he warned against reckless heroism. "A general-in-chief should not go and get killed," he said bluntly. "If the commander falls, the plan dies with him." Leadership is not about ego, it's about endurance. Inspire with your presence, not your absence. Napoleon had trusted aides betray him and never forgot the lesson. He said, "In politics, stupidity is not a handicap, but treachery is." After he was exiled the first time, those he'd rewarded turned on him. He learned to expect betrayal not just from enemies but from allies too. His motto became, "Trust, but count the knives." If you expect loyalty forever, you'll be surprised fatally. Napoleon didn't believe in heaven, but he did believe in legacy. He once said, "There is no immortality but the memory that is left in the minds of men." For him, to live without glory was not to have lived at all. Even while dying in exile, he claimed, "My downfall raises me to infinite heights." That's how deeply he believed in the power of memory, of leaving a mark. Live in such a way that your story is impossible to forget. Napoleon's victories weren't just on battlefields. He ruled over himself first. Discipline, clarity, decision. Those were his true palaces. He once spoke of destiny as being revealed in installments, and insisted that even his exile had meaning. The external world could collapse, but his sense of purpose remained untouched. His real empire wasn't France, it was the will inside. Win the war inside, and the world outside must follow. At the very end, the opportunist turned philosopher. On his deathbed, Napoleon told his son, "No matter what he learns, he will profit little from it if in his innermost heart he lacks that sacred flame, that love of the good which alone inspires great deeds." Strategy, power, ambition, they were tools, but without purpose, they meant nothing. He wanted his son not just to rule, but to burn with meaning. Power fades, purpose endures.